Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another special segment of the Wealth Guardians radio show. I say it's special. It's
always special.
Special to me and Brice. And since Brice, you're with me, bright and bushy-tailed this morning, let's continue the saga of your daughter Aspen.
Oh, where is she,
folks? If you remember, Aspen was doing a study abroad in London with Queen's University. And, of course, the plug was pulled on that. She had to come home, and she has been in quarantine. So, Brice, bring us up to date.
Yeah, it was actually not London. It was Trent University in Nottingham, a couple hours north of London. But her 4-month study abroad was cut down to 6 weeks, and she came from Heathrow back to Charlotte and had to spend 14 days in quarantine, which she was a very responsible American patriot citizen and stayed 14 days inside, of course, doing her studies and playing her computer games that the kids will do these days. And now she is out of quarantine, of course, keeping social distancing. I haven't seen her yet. She hasn't come up here, but she's probably going to stay down with her mom in the Charlotte area until close to the end of the semester, and then we'll come up here and instead of going back and forth. Of course, my wife is in the medical field, so our household is potentially a little bit more vulnerable to the COVID than most households are. So we're deciding to keep her away from here for a little bit longer. Doug, your dad, how old is your dad?
Dad'll be 88 in June.
And what's he doing now? Because he doesn't like staying at home.
Well, he's staying at home. It's springtime. He's got his garden to work in now, so that keeps him busy. We are obviously getting his groceries for him because we don't want him out in public, and he's getting stir crazy.
Yeah.
Like everybody else is.
Okay. All right. Well, at least he's hanging in there very well.
Yeah.
It's funny. I heard somebody say, look, our grandparents went to war in World War II. All we're being asked to do is stay at home, sit on the couch, and watch TV. We can do this. We can be the next great generation. We can do this.
Popcorn isn't as scarce as toilet paper is it?
Oh, God. No, it's not. I found plenty out there, but I am, we talked about that last time. I am still looking for toilet paper out there. I can't find any. And now I'm starting to get worried. I'm starting to panic.
It's been a couple of weeks. Thing. What do people do with all this toilet paper?
I don't know, but I'm ready to move on to tissue paper or something. All right.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, Doug, let's go ahead and do our regular thanks and appreciation and show of gratitude to all of our first responders, our military men and women out there. Let's include our doctors and our nurses and our PAs.
Everybody, grocery store workers, Amazon, Walmart. I mean, they're the ones keeping us fed.
Yeah, they're essential, but they're probably not earning essential pay.
And even everybody else who's having to stay at home and stop the spread of this, I call it the Chi-Com virus, but whatever.
Yeah, well, folks, anyway, to all of you out there, if you're being responsible and you're keeping your social distance, we're going to extend it beyond just the military for this period of time and say thank you to everybody out there for thinking of your fellow Americans and the fellow citizens of the world and trying to keep this thing nipped in the bud as quickly as possible. So we appreciate it.
Well, folks, I think we've got a good show lined up for you this morning.
You found some good information, Doug.
I did. The president signed the CARE Act into law last week. I found some good information that really I don't think is quite public knowledge yet. There's a lot buried into this act.
It was 900 pages or something like that?
Something like that. I also want to talk a little bit about the market, what's going on there. So why don't we start with the market action? We've obviously talked about this is a bear market, probably one of the quickest bear markets to have developed.
Well, not probably.
It is.
It is the fastest. And that's a technical term, too. That's a 20% drop from its previous high.
Very, very much so. Down 30%, I think. Then we had a rebound of 15-20%.
Now it's kind of stalled out.
Well, my crystal ball says, yeah, that was a bounce, and we're due for another leg down. How far down is anybody's guess, but if you look at a chart, the best solid support I see on the chart on the Dow Jones goes all the way back to February of 2016, and that's around 16,250. Now you say, whoa, that sounds dire. That sounds impossible even. And I'd say, yeah, and let's hope it is. But you got to remember, folks, the world is shut down. and it's going to take a while in order for everybody to get back to work again. And, just your mom and pop restaurants, factories, everything is hotels, cruises, you name it. It's all shut down. And that's going to be a huge, huge hit on the world economy. Not just ours. Not just ours.
Right.
So, yeah, I've seen predictions of 30% unemployment in the United States.
Yeah, I saw that as well. That's unheard of.
Crazy. It's like Depression era times.
Yeah.
So let me just throw this out here to you. Obviously, we're offering second opinions to you folks. Our clients are nice and protected and safe and have been for weeks now. If you want to learn how we do that for them, just give us a call. The number's 336-391-3409. It never does hurt to have a second opinion about what you're doing with your retirement assets, especially if you're retired or you're near retirement. This is a crucial time for you folks right now.
Let's repeat that phone number again. It's 336-391-3409. You can also find us on the interweb thing, www.thewealthguardians.com. And folks, you might have thought that you had retirement all planned out perfectly, and now maybe perhaps some kind of a curveball has thrown at you. Maybe you or your spouse are unemployed for a little bit of time or a longer period of time, or gosh, forbid, maybe permanently, and that wasn't part of your original plan. We can certainly sit down with you and take a look at what kind of curveball that actually was. Is that something you can overcome, or is it not that big of a factor at all? And, that's what we do with our clients day in and day out, and we give them the answers that they're looking for.
Well, Brice, let's go ahead and dig into these, the CARE Act and the coronavirus stimulus actions. Everybody's heard it's $2+ trillion package, and you've probably heard things like airlines are getting bailed out. There's money in it for small business owners, that kind of thing. But there's also a lot in this package for everybody. The first one I want to address is required minimum distributions. That basically goes on a holiday this year. That means if you are subject to your required minimum distribution, you do not have to take it for this year.
So if you're over 70 and a half, listen up out there.
If you're over 70 and a half, you do not have to take it for this year. And,
period.
More importantly, if you have already taken it, there's a do-over. You can put it back. And you have, the rest of the year to put it back, which I think is a pretty cool thing. Now, what's that going to do? That's going to obviously save you some tax money. That's obviously going to be able to put back in your account so it can grow for the future.
Now, that was only for the 2020 RMDs. That did not retro back to the 2019 RMDs.
2020, that's correct.
Okay.
2020. Now, another thing we can think about doing this year is this. You remember, your 2020 RMD is based on your account value of December 2019, which was, guess what, a lot higher, because this mess didn't start until February of this year. So if you can retroactively go back and put it back in and don't have to take the tax hit on that higher value, now what you can think about doing is maybe converting that RMD to a Roth account this year at a lower value. Let's do some forward tax planning and thinking about that.
And this is not something that your typical CPA is going to do, because they're generally looking at a 1-year forecast for you and what's best for you for this year. We, as financial planners, are looking at a longer term scenario and what might be better for you in the longer period of time as well.
Yeah. Now, if you took your RMD already, everybody has a 60-day rollover period where you can put it back in. Well, they have actually liberalized that quite a bit. They now have 3 years to put it back.
That's crazy.
Hey, this new act is extremely liberal on lots and lots of different actions, as we're going to find out here as we go through the rest of these things. And you know what? I think if we do have 30% unemployment, what we've got to announce next about this CARE Act is going to be very valuable to some folks out there. And basically what we're talking about is debt relief. Right now, a lot of credit card companies are basically saying, hey, we're going to forgive interest for a period of time, or even your payments for a period of time. And I don't have details on who they are and what they are, but I've got a phone number for you to call. There's student loan forgiveness. That goes through, I think it is September of this year. In other words, you don't have to pay on your student loan, and no interest will accrue on it. But here is a number for you to call to check on your situation. It's 800-4-FED-AID. Now, personally, I hate it when they do that.
The letters?
I would rather have the number, so I decoded it for you.
Oh, you did that. You had a decoder.
I got a decoder. So write this down. It's 800-433-3243. They also, as a part of this, if you have an FHA loan on your home, they have imposed a 60-day foreclosure and an eviction moratorium on that for single-family
I think that's going to help out a lot of people right there.
Absolutely. And Fannie and Freddie Mac have done essentially the very same thing. So there's lots of good things in this program. We're not completely done with it yet. We'll have to finish up in the latter half of the show. But, the government really does want to get things put back in order as quickly as possible. I got to tell you, it's going to be a long haul. I think we got 2 quarters ahead of us that are going to be pretty nasty. I don't see this thing coming back until probably the 4th quarter of this year, which, if that's correct, that makes the lower valuations on the stock market even more plausible.
Wow. All right, Doug. Well, that was a lot of good information. I take it I see a couple of more highlights there, so we're going to come back in the second segment of the show and continue with some of the details of this CARE Act. Well, folks, before we head to break here, it's time for that trivia question. So, Doug, I didn't reveal this one to you, so you're going to be out there with everybody else. So we might have seen a little uptick in you noticing those plague masks that the doctors wore in the 17th century, those plague masks that look like birds.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha now.
So why did the plague doctors in the 17th century wear bird masks?
Oh.
Why did they wear bird masks? Was it, one, did it force the doctor to keep his distance from his patient so he couldn't get his face too close to the patient? Did it keep him anonymous so grieving family members couldn't identify him? And I guess what they might have done back in the day is take revenge on his failing to save lives. Or was it C, was thought that the plague would jump from the patient to the doctor since he looked like a bird? So why did plague doctors in the 17th century wear a bird mask? Folks, we will be back in just a moment or two here, and we will have that answer for you. Stay tuned to the Wealth Guardians. And welcome back to the Wealth Guardians radio show. I'm Brice. Doug is here. Glad you're joining us. For listeners out there, if you're 5 to 7 years from retirement and you want to confirm that you're making the best decisions for retirement, well, good news. We offer a no-cost, no-obligation second review so you can learn how we retire the job, but yet you keep the paycheck. So if you want to reach out to us and have us help you out in that aspect and do some retirement and financial planning for you, 336-391-3409 is our number. And again, that's 336-391-3409. You can also find us on the interweb, www.thewealthguardians.com. So let's go ahead. In the first segment, we were talking about the CARE Act and some of the details and what that might mean for you and your retirement planning. But before we went to break, I had a trivia question for you, as I like to do. And my question was, why did the plague doctors in the 17th century wear those bird masks that you see? If you were to look up Dr. Plague Mask, you would see that. And I've actually thought that's what I want to get for a Halloween costume this year. We'll see. So why did the doctors wear these bird masks in the 17th century, these plague doctors? Was it, one, to force the doctor to keep his distance from his patient? So you've got the beak out there so he couldn't get his face too close to the patient's face. Did it keep him anonymous so grieving family members couldn't identify him and take revenge on his failing to save lives? Or was it C, that it was thought that the plague would jump from the patient to the doctor since he looked like a bird? Doug, what do you think the answer is there?
Well, I tell you, since your wife Belle is a physician's assistant, I think she would have that Halloween mask would be perfect for her.
For her, yeah. Well, yeah. For me, yeah.
The only answer I think that's logical is to keep the distance from the patient.
Yeah, you would think, right?
That's probably not the right answer.
That's not the right answer.
Okay.
No. The actual answer is that it was thought at the time that the Black Plague, the Black Death, was airborne. They thought it was carried by birds. So they thought that if the doctor dressed up like a bird, that the plague would see him and jump from the patient to this leathery mask. It would keep the doctor safe, yet it would draw the plague from the patient to the doctor's mask because he looked like a bird.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was actually a second benefit to that too, is that the doctor would put certain aromas, I guess certain scents, flowers and whatnot inside that beak so that he would smell that and not have to smell death everywhere that he went, apparently is a second purpose for that. But folks, there is your answer. Now let's go ahead and move on. Doug, we were talking about the CARE Act.
We were talking about the CARE Act and how it pertains to you folks. If you weren't with us in the first segment, let me recap a couple things we did real quickly for you. We have a required minimum distribution holiday this year. So that means if you're subject to required minimum distributions, you don't have to take it, especially because they are calculated based on your December values, which were obviously higher. So in that case, if you've already taken your distribution, you can actually do over. You can put it back, in other words. And you've got up to 3 years to do that, believe it or not. And then the other thing we talked about was there is some forgiveness of debt obligations. Mortgage companies now are foregoing interest and payments for a period of time. Student loans, if you're paying back student loans, that's forgiven until I think it's September.
They're just putting a hold on the
putting
payments.
a hold on it. You don't have, and the interest does not accrue.
Boy, that's nice right there.
FHA has imposed a 60-day foreclosure and eviction moratorium. So has Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So there's a lot of good things in this. There's some credit card companies out there that are giving you some relief.
Yeah. To
find out exactly who and what, here's a federal 800 number to call. It's 800-433-3243. I'll say it one more time. It's 800-433-3243. All right, so moving on to some other things in this CARE Act, and this next one I think may be really important because if they're right about having 30% plus unemployment rates in this country, folks are going to probably need to depend on this. We're talking about penalty-free withdrawals from qualified plans, your 401ks and your IRAs.
And your 403Bs, yeah.
So what it's saying here is you can get up to $100,000 out of your 401k and your IRA with either two ways to do it. An in-service distribution, and in this in-service distribution, that means you're still working, but if you're under 59 and a half, they are foregoing the 10% early distribution penalty and the 20% mandatory withholdings on that money.
That opens up a lot.
That opens up
doors.
A lot.
Yeah.
Now, you're already probably aware, if you have a 401k, that you have loan provisions in it. All right? So what the CARE Act does there is this. Previous to the CARE Act, you could take up to $50,000 or 50%, whichever is the higher, as a loan. Now they've increased it to $100,000 or 100%.
Okay.
Okay? You have the ability to pay that back. Oh, one other thing about the distribution. This is cool. I failed to mention this. If you take the distribution, I'm not talking about a loan, a distribution, you have up to 3 years to pay it back or pay the tax on it over a 3-year period. So it's not all going to be taxable during this tax year.
How about that?
So they have really done an awful lot to help folks out during this time of crisis. And
can I ask a question about one of the ones that you mentioned in the
sure,
first one?
Yep.
So you said that if you want to undo the RMD in 2020 that you already took out, you've got 3 years to undo that.
Yep.
So, but this CARE Act does not extend to RMDs in 2021 or 2022.
Right now it does not.
Right now it does not.
It's just for 2020.
So to be clear, you would still have to take, based on how it is today, you would still have to take an RMD in 2021, but you could undo your RMD that you took out in 2020.
Exactly.
How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of moving parts in this stuff. Folks, again, we're open, for your questions. If you want to call us at 336-391-3409, love to take your calls. Love to meet with you and give you the second opinion on your retirement plan and what you're doing.
Doug, I will say I kind of subscribe to the Will Rogers thought that any day that Congress doesn't do anything is a good day. But I got to say, based on what we're hearing, some of the details here in the CARE Act, Congress somehow, despite all of their follies and foils, they somehow managed to nail a home run with this in many aspects, because these temporary loan forgiveness and ways to keep your money and not be penalized for accessing some of your monies, this was exactly what we needed at this particular time, because a lot of people are without 100% of their income right now and are very well could be for the foreseeable future. So having access to their monies that they didn't normally have full access to without penalties, being able to not take RMDs if they don't want to, this is really key for a lot of people out there.
No doubt about it. It's a $2 trillion plus package. They're now talking about another $2 trillion infrastructure spending bill. It blows the federal balance sheet to kingdom come, but I guess in times like this, you have to do it. It's kind of scary from that aspect if you look at the amount of debt we're loading up on the country and the future obligations, but, it could be a lot worse. I mean, we really are, without this spending bill, probably staring at a depression, I would think.
Oh, I have no doubts. You can't just simply shut down the economy for, 3 or 4 months and not have that be an absolute devastating economic situation. You can't do it. So this is going to help out. Now, granted, this might ultimately in the end be just a drop in the bucket, but at least Congress is thinking in the right terms.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I've always been a fiscal conservative person myself.
I as well.
This is dire. It really is.
Yeah, you can't fault them for needing to spend this kind of money right now.
And none of us living really has seen a depression. My dad lived through a piece of it as a young boy, but his parents lived through it as adults. And, we talk a lot, but that market that topped in 1929, that market didn't get back to its previous high until 1954. That was 25 years that market was underwater.
Yeah, and that was because people were in such bad shape that they didn't have money to invest for that long of a period. They were just trying to get back in, paying their mortgage or putting food on the table for such a long period of time. They didn't have that extra money to invest.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I'll tell you right now, I don't foresee anything that bad happening, but it could be a protracted long period of time. Look, folks, this market basically treaded water for an entire decade back in the 70s. I mean, that could easily be what we're looking at for this decade of the 20s.
Yeah, not really progressing, just holding on. Doug, I want to mention to everybody out there that if you catch us saying the phone number every once in a while and they think, maybe I should meet with these guys. I know that the North Carolina right now, at least in our listening area, that we're kind of on a stay in shelter, stay in place rule right now. But Doug, we have the opportunity and the ability to meet with our clients. If they want to meet with us, we can do that via the webinar thing there. We don't have to actually have you come into the office to sit down with us. And I think for a lot of you out there, that might make a lot of difference. If you've saved for retirement and now you find yourself in a position where you don't know when retirement is actually coming, is it already upon you? And you've got $200,000 out there that you've saved. Well, let us help you with that. You don't even have to come into the office at this particular stage. You can sit there in the comfort of your own home. All you have to do is reach out to us, 336-391-3409. It's 336-391-3409. It's generally around a 4-meeting process. We collect a lot of information from you, and then we analyze your current portfolio, your current situation, put it through some stress tests, show you what kind of stress you're taking, risks you're taking, and then we start making some recommendations. And we don't make recommendations unless we can improve your situation, obviously. And then if you decide that, hey, that makes sense, I think I want to implement these so I'm taking less risk or paying less fees, we can help you with that stage of the planning as well. And the best thing, Doug, is there's no cost or obligation for any of this.
No cost, no obligation, and I'll add our practices run as fiduciaries.
Well, let's mention that as well. That means that we are making any recommendations that are in your best interest, not just suitable to you. Well, folks, that brings us to the close of another show here with us at the Wealth Guardians this weekend. We do hope you all have a safe and happy and healthy weekend with your family. We hope to see you all back here next week. Take care.